welcome back to the garage. Not a whole lot of stuff to report this week. It's mostly been a week of well, cleaning up and doing little things. So we'll go through that and see what we got. So speaking of little things, I have been cleaning up and sandblasting and priming and painting little things. So I've taken and cleaned up the brackets. So this is for our speedometer cable. I've cleaned up all the bolts and hardware and stuff. That's for the steering column. Those two are for the Radsport. Those two still got to be cleaned up. This is the push rod for our clutch master. I've taken and painted the new clutch master and slave cylinder. Taken, cleaned, and painted the steering coupler and stub shaft. I put a coat of clear on the master cylinder to protect it. I found some floor plugs for the cab. So these are actually the floor plugs from a 1964 Acadian, which in reality is a Chevy 2. But, so I got these guys, right? And I just threw a cover on the truck to keep the dust off it. But what I quickly realized is these fit. Regardless of which direction you put them in, they fit. So what we're going to do is I'll give them a coat of butyl around the edge here just to seal it, and then we'll screw them down. And that is the floor plugs put back in. Now if you're keen, you'll notice that the door is back on the truck. I just hung the doors just to get an idea where we're at. So far, body lines and stuff wise, it's pretty good. And I chipped the primer putting the door on like an idiot. So that's pretty good. We're not going to use these doors though anyway. That's why I went and picked them up from the blasters. Because when I got down in here, the bottoms of them are pretty freaking crusty. And it just gets worse. So, rather than spend the time fixing these doors, which this is actually the better of the two, I picked up these doors from a guy. So these doors, I don't know a whole lot about them. The only downside I really see to them is obviously the bushings are roached in them, which is a common S10 problem. And there's been some interesting repairs up here on this door hinge, so we're gonna have to fix that properly, right? Because I don't like that. But the doors themselves are in pretty good shape. Like, I took, because somebody primed them, and I don't like primer because it's hard to tell what you're looking at. I took and just kind of give them a quick spot blast, and honestly, they're not bad at all. Like, this is original sheet metal. These have not been repaired. They got a little ding right here, which I'll have to take and massage out. And both doors are like that. Like, they're pretty clean. Like this one here. This is the passenger side, obviously. I'll show you a little better once I get it up on top here. So right now I'm just going to take the guts out of them, and I'm going to get them sandblasted anyway. Okay, so here's our driver's door, which they did sandblast. Why I decided against it is we got a lot of pitting up here, basically down this whole side, and there's actually a hole right here. Obviously this whole corner is gone, and then if we come across the door here, we've got rust in the middle of the door in a bunch of weird places, and there's actually a hole through it right there, and there's also a hole down here through it. So I didn't want to get into putting patches all over the freaking door if I could help it. And then the bottom of it was also not great. Like, it's, you can see it's rotted right through the whole structure of the door. So that's why I went and got the other doors. So I paid $140 for this pair of doors, and like I say, they are much, much better, to the point where I really don't have to do any metal work in them. other than fixing that hinge. So that, to me, is a tremendous step forward for the amount of money it cost. So I've started reinstalling some of the things that go on the firewall. I know, it doesn't seem like much, but it's baby steps, right? I've chosen which steering column I'm using, obviously, so at this point I can actually start putting things on here. So I'm putting all the grommets through and all that stuff. So I got looking through, and these are probably the best set of pedals I have. These are the ones that came out of my 87 cab. The only thing is I'll have to drive the studs out, because obviously we're gonna have bolts that go through there as opposed to studs. Well, not bolts. It's the studs are on the booster instead of going through the firewall. Okay, so here's the other door. Like I said, it's a pretty nice door. Like little spots and stuff here, but look at all that sandblasted. Taken and gutted both doors, and can move on from there. All right, so I get the new Radsport here, and what we're gonna do is just kind of clean it up a little bit here and fit it on the truck so we can sort of align some panels and get an idea of what we're doing. As you can see, the corners are a little bent up from shipping. You know, this poor thing's been getting bounced around since 2003. So I'll take a hammer and dolly, which are over there on the bench, and I will straighten this out the best I can. And then we'll put it on the truck. Okay, so with the new Radsport assembled loosely, obviously I've put the new hardware, well, not new, but reconditioned hardware and the new bushings and everything on it. So I got it loose here still, so we can still kind of slide it around if we need to. Because your Radsport usually has the majority of the movement you're going to have in the front of the vehicle. Obviously, you're not going to move the cab around. So what we're going to do is start test fitting our front fenders, and we will see basically where we need to work on them, because I have a feeling we're going to need to work on them. Okay, so our first issue, what I feel like might be many. It's hard to see it here. Let me get a light. Right in the bottom here, you will see that the corner of the fender is actually touching the cab. So I'm going to trim it, and we'll see if it fits better. So I've gone ahead, and those are the floor plugs now installed. And I've started taking our pedals apart, because one of the things I want to do is, see, from the factory they have these little bushings that come in here, right, for the pedals. And that's what keeps your pedals nice and taut. Now the problem with that is, over time, it's hard to tell, hopefully you can see this, but there's a bit of play. I'm really hoping that this is visible to you. I can see it on my end. There's play in the pedals. And let's face it, at this point, you know, we've gone over budget, so what the hell, what's an extra $20 worth of bushings to rebush our pedals and make them like brand new too? So that brings us to the end of this week's video. And I realize it wasn't the greatest, but you know what? That's the reality of restoration. It's not always fun and games and exciting. Sometimes it kind of sucks. But I figured I'd give you a little sneak peek of what you're going to see next week. So in addition to fitting the doors, which the other doors are going to sandblast tomorrow, and then they'll get primed like these guys, what I've been doing is fitting all of the front sheet metal. Now keep in mind that this truck is assembled with a multitude of different trucks worth of sheet metal. These are aftermarket fenders. That's an aftermarket Radsport. That's my original 87 header panel, 87 cowl. That's an 89 hood. That's an 82 cab. But it's starting to look like a truck. This door's not aligned at all. I didn't even bother to align it, so you can see the body lines are terrible on it. So I've got a whole bunch of things that are obviously marked that I need to do to make everything fit the way I want it to. So you can see overall the body doesn't fit as bad as I thought it would. So that's a good sign. So until next week, thanks for watching.